freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, Cheryl and Dan Todd from GunFreedomRadio coming to you from the 2026 SHOT Show in
fabulous Las Vegas.
Nicely done. We love this event because it gives us a chance to connect with people from all over the country doing amazing work in advocacy and education and all manner of things. And today's guest, I'm so excited to reconnect with Professor David Yamane. Welcome to Gun Freedom Radio.
Yes, thanks. It's great to be here and to do it face-to-face this time.
Yes, we've had you on before and we did the Zoom thing, which is great, but nothing is better than getting to see each other in person. Now, David Yamane is the author of Gun Curious, this guy right here. He is a Wake Forest sociology professor and internationally recognized authority on American gun culture, offering a calm, compassionate bridge across polarized debates and nationwide discussions. And we all know that culture is where litigation comes from, where legislation comes from. And so you are really, at the crux with what you're doing. So let's talk about that. What got you so interested? I mean, you're a sociology professor, but specifically this area.
Yeah. Well, so I got into guns and I got into the study of guns around the same time. Back in 2011 was the first time as a 42-year-old I ever shot a gun. Became quickly interested in it personally, and then also needed a new project to work on, and I thought, what better to study than this thing that I was getting interested in? But it made it very challenging because this liberal academic world and also my personal politics were very liberal and very anti-gun, or at least gun unfriendly. And then coming into this other world and realizing how little dialogue takes place between the two worlds, which I think is unfortunate because minimally, we can try to understand where other people are coming from. So the book Gun Curious really sort of aims to tell my liberal friends, really, why do guns make sense for people who own them, of which there are millions and tens of millions and probably 100 million, right?
Absolutely.
That's great, David, because a lot of people, liberals versus conservatives, they won't talk.
Yeah.
It's either you're stupid or you're, so they don't talk. So this is this is a open door to understanding, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been, really warmly received in any gun community I've gone to. Politically, we probably don't agree on many things, maybe nothing other than guns, but that's okay, right?
Absolutely.
And, I think, and the book has been out about 18 months now, and I think probably the most disappointing part is that liberals, the people that I really wanted to hear the message, haven't really heard the message, that there's still a lot of obstinance and refusal to understand why guns make sense to those of us who own them across the political spectrum, from all demographic groups. The gun owners are a really diverse group, but a lot of people they don't want to hear anything other than the bad parts.
So, David, when you had mentioned that you got into guns when you were like 40s, you said?
42.
And so what made you make that step? It had to be more than just curiosity.
Yeah.
What made you say, I think I'm going to go get a gun?
Yeah. So, coming from totally outside gun culture, I really didn't know anything about it. I moved to North Carolina in 2005, and I gradually started noticing more people had guns, people who I played tennis with, my real estate agent, normal people, right? And so that kind of made me rethink what gun ownership meant. Top Shot was very popular on TV. I watched that and was amazed at the feats of marksmanship. I had a very scary moment in a parking lot that place I was living, and so that gave me this feeling of insecurity. So a lot of those things just kind of intersecting around the same time, and I thought, well, I should just see how guns work, right? And minimally, lots of people in North Carolina have them. I may come across one someday, and I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
So just went out, a friend of a friend's backyard, shot some rounds, and that was a lot of fun. So I was off and running from there.
So did you ask the friend to teach you, or did the friend invite you?
It was a woman. I ended up marrying her, but it was a high school classmate of hers is a gun trainer for the North Carolina Highway Patrol. So I was just talking to her about mutual interests, and she said, well, I think Jimmy could probably take you out to his range and show you how to shoot. And I'd like, super. So, but that was kind of indicative of how it was, because she's just a normal person. I met her through tennis, but then she just started talking about growing up in North Carolina. They had guns in their house, and for all different purposes. She was in the Coast Guard. She carried a gun. I was like, "You carried a gun in the Coast Guard?" She's like, "Yeah, it's like." That's how little I knew or understood about guns. I just didn't conceptualize someone in the Coast Guard carrying a gun.
Right.
So.
Well, I love that it just took an open and curious mind, right? And you could have gone out to the range and had the experience and then said to yourself, okay, that was fine, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
And we've had a retail gun shop for like 20 years in the past, and we would consult with people. Like, we felt like we were offering a service.
Yeah.
And sometimes people, in the course of us, talking to them about what tools are available, they would say, you know what, it's just really not right for this time in my life, or whatever the case may be. And we applauded that, because if you're that self-aware, then you're going to keep everybody safer anyway. And so, but the key is just the open and curious mind. It will help you find what's really right for you, rather than, well, what's right for the other person.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we end up with this defensive posture on both sides and that sort of thing. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, curiosity, it's the title of the book, and it's maybe a way of thinking. It's also a virtue. Curiosity is a virtue that we don't appreciate as much as we might. And, I think social media plays a very negative role in this, because the algorithms feed us material that doesn't require us to be curious at all. Certainly, again, becoming so involved in gun culture, coming to the SHOT Show, which are, I'm not in the industry really, I'm an analyst of guns. But I see all kinds of people who in my daily life I would never have a chance to see or talk to, right? And and our lives are increasingly set up so we don't have to talk to anybody that we don't agree with, including people disowning family members. Like, you're my brother, but we don't agree, so I'm not going to talk to you anymore. This is a terrible direction, and so anything I can do, and I appreciate the work you do to try to say, hey, like, it's not about agreeing, it's about looking someone in the eyes, saying, I reckon you're a fellow citizen, we may disagree, but that doesn't mean that we're not all in this together. Exactly. And it's too easy for people just to check out on other people, I think, today.
People get so angry when you don't agree with them. And how do we ever open any doors if we don't at least listen and talk?
That's right.
You don't have to agree with them, but you can try to understand where they're coming from, and then you can tell them how you're coming. But it's so hard when people just won't listen.
Yeah.
So the Gun Curious book, is there, how has it gone? Is there an update? What's going on with that particular book?
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's been really well received in certain communities. I think especially the gun owning community appreciate the effort I took to try to really understand what the gun culture is, how it works, why it makes sense. But unfortunately, trying to reach this other sort of segment of my hoped-for audience, the liberals, even maybe some of my fellow academics. The subtitle is A Liberal Professor's Surprising Journey, and I put that in there knowing that there would be some who would, from the other side, who wouldn't read it because it said liberal professor.
Right.
But I said, but I really want to get other people who are like, well, I'll take what a liberal professor has to say.
Yes.
Like, this is not someone who, is to a absolutist or whatever other negative conceptions they have in mind about someone who would write about guns. But it really didn't hit that audience as much as I had hoped for, which is disappointing. But maybe I had unrealistic expectations about how open-minded people are really willing to be. And a couple of the reviews really basically said, I appreciate the attempt, but I don't think many people on the liberal side are going to be convinced, which I thought was very disappointing.
Yes, it is.
David, what's really sad is we've been doing interviews for 10 years now, and we found that for a liberal to go to the other side, there's two ways for that to happen. One is they become a victim, which is terrible.
Right, something scary happens in a parking lot, right?
Yep.
Like
and the other is that a person invites them to go and experience shooting.
Yeah.
We took 20 people that have never shot a firearm before in their life, and we started with the smallest gun and went all the way up to machine guns. And we had these people come. We went out in the desert. It was very well controlled. People only shot what they wanted to shoot. We had some that said they only wanted to shoot the 22s. By the time the event was over, everybody shot everything, and they loved it.
Yeah.
So we spent the time to show them. Now, did it change some minds? We don't know.
Right.
But for that day, it did.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So somebody take the time to say, hey, let's just go shoot. If you don't like it, it's okay. We're not going to give you the biggest gun. We're going to give you something that you can be familiar with. And I think that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. Well, when I teach my Sociology of Guns class at Wake Forest, the first thing that we do as a class is go to the range.
I love that. I tell that story all the time. Go ahead and finish.
Well, students aren't required to shoot, but they're invited, and all of them in recent years have taken the opportunity. 22 pistol, 9mm pistol, and an AR platform rifle. And it's not designed to convert them to gun ownership. Right. It's designed to say, this is the reality we're going to be talking about. This is how they work. This is what it feels like. And, so they don't change their fundamental views, because none of us change our fundamental views very quickly. It's only one semester. But the harder edges get softened, right? They come out of the class thinking, guns may not be for me, but I understand why other people might like
and they'll listen to conversations about it, because they experienced it.
Right, exactly.
So you have another book in the pike, right? Like coming down the beltway there.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So I actually have my original entry into the field was under this concept of gun culture 2.0 that I stole from Michael Bain. So really the shift toward a defensive core of gun culture. And I really set a lot of that work aside to write this book, because I really wanted to sort of center my own story. So I'm kind of going back and rewriting that book on gun culture 2.0, hopefully the sort of definitive study of this shift of our gun culture towards self-defense, understanding that other aspects of collecting and hunting still exist. But I'm here at SHOT this year in part to see what's happening in that world of defensive firearms, pistols, holsters, other accessories designed to make people able to live that sort of concealed carry lifestyle.
Yes.
And so you've been at the SHOT Show and you've talked to a lot of people. Has anybody slammed the door on you saying because you're a liberal professor?
No, and in fact, it's more of a curiosity. I think people see that I'm from a university, and they're like, kind of, what are you doing here? How can I help you? And honestly, there are some people out there who, they're not good wanting to talk to anybody on the other side. But anybody in this setting, I think the kind of mainstream of where the industry is and professionals, they have an interest in getting their story out. And if you don't talk to the media or professors, you're not going to be able to get your story out to a certain segment of the population. So
I know that we have a mutual friend in Michael Sodini, who is the founder of Walk the Talk America, and they are the bridge between the firearms community and the mental health professional community, which it's weird that we need a bridge, but here we are. And he's been doing amazing work. And there was an event in Phoenix, Arizona recently that Michael came, and I believe you came to that. Yeah. I missed it. We should have had some coffee together because we live there.
That's right.
But tell us about your connection with that event and Walk the Talk America and the whole suicide prevention piece of this.
Yeah. Well, that was one of these great events that doesn't happen often enough, which brought together people who were public health scholars, gun violence prevention scholars and activists, along with people from the firearms community and scholars like me who, try to understand the firearms community. And it was a closed event, which I thought was important because a lot of times people, if there's a camera running, then people start to posture.
Yes.
And so it was really, an opportunity for people to share their understandings, share some of their differences, come to some mutual understandings. And so hopefully I don't know whether that will become a regular event, but it was really great. And Mike, that's the perfect venue for him because he will go into any setting and talk to anybody who's willing to listen to him, which I think is, amazing. One of the other reasons I'm here at the event is because they Walk the Talk America is giving ambassador awards for people who support their work, and I was one of the inaugural ambassadors for 2025.
That is so perfect.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I'm very proud of that, but also just proud of the work that Mike is doing and what that organization is doing. And yeah, there's no reason why people who are 100% committed to guns and gun rights and people who are 100% committed to good mental health and suicide prevention can't consider themselves on the same team. And Mike takes that attitude, and I think that's why he's had such success.
Well, I love that. He himself is a bridge builder. You are a bridge builder, and I respect that so much. And there has been a shift. When we had our retail gun shop during the 2020 craziness where there were lockdowns and then there were riots and then the food stores even didn't have enough food on the shelves, people got very unsettled and nervous. And so we had many people come into our store that they themselves were saying, I cannot believe that I am actually standing in a gun store considering buying a firearm. It was a huge honor to us to be able to serve people in that way. And as I said, some came to the conclusion, well, it really isn't for me after all. Many others said, yes, I am ready for this responsibility. And we would connect them with trainers, and we would connect them with their constitutional rights and community. And so since then, there has been a shift in the gun-owning demographic, and there are people from the other side of the political aisle that would consider themselves liberal, as yourself, that are coming into this. So I know there are people who would be open to your book, and there's always going to be some that aren't. They're always going to be closed-minded, but I really think that your book came at such a good time because I have offered it and suggested it to so many people. I've shared the story that you told me about, it's a prerequisite for your class, that if you're going to have intelligent conversations, debates, and write intelligent papers, you have to have this experiential piece, right?
Absolutely.
And it makes all the difference. And so I'm so happy and excited that you've done the work you're doing, and please keep going, even though you're going to hit those brick walls.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the support, and I should say that this connects you and Walk the Talk and me. The gun that I bought in the charity auction for Walk the Talk through your auction house, I'm going to use at the range next year, so it'll have the Walk the Talk insignia on it.
Nice.
And I bought it because I didn't have a gun that I could put a suppressor on, so I'm going to put a suppressor on that gun. So next year, for the first time, my students will shoot a suppressed 9mm pistol.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And Pot of Gold Auctions is, the financial financial engine that drives all this other work that we do. So thank you for mentioning that. And we love that we can use that work that we do to run those charity auctions for Walk the Talk America, and all that money goes to fuel the work that he does. Amazing. I love when worlds converge like that.
Yeah.
So,
we have another one on March 24th.
and we have another one on March 24th, 2026 at potofgoldauctions.com, P-O-G auctions.com. My daughter, Cassie, is the voice off camera, our auction house manager, feeding me this information. Professor Yamane, thank you so much for all that you do and for taking time to be with us here today. What final comments do you have for our audience before you let them know how they can follow all the amazing work you do?
Yeah. Well, I imagine if they're part of your audience, then I don't have to convince them to be open and welcoming to other people, to have the virtue of curiosity. I also mention another virtue I talk to my students and anybody who listen about is, the virtue of humility. And I think this is another thing that gets lost when everybody's dug in so much on their positions that they don't approach other people with that that orientation of humility. So, I'd encourage people to be curious and humble.
I like that. And how do they follow the work that you're doing?
So easiest way is just davidyamane.com, or if you Google Gun Curious or Gun Culture 2.0, you should be able to find me, and be happy to be in touch with as many people as possible.
Fantastic.
And how do they buy the book?
So the book is really probably the easiest place is to buy it on Amazon, but if you'd like a signed copy, you can get in touch with me directly and I can arrange to sign and sell you a copy directly.
Awesome.
I love that. And I really encourage everybody to, think about this for yourself. I know you've got somebody in your mind that you're like, that so-and-so needs that book, right? That's not the right humble attitude to go at it, right? So read it for yourself and then offer it maybe to a couple of people in your circle that you think might have those virtues of humility and curiosity, because that is how we change the conversation and make it more positive and to move the needle on things rather than being gridlocked. Yes?
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people for whom guns make sense and they have a family member or friend that it doesn't, that this can often be a neutral way to say, like, hey, I've tried to convince you for the 10 years that I've known you about why I like guns. Here's another way of looking at it.
Oh, I like that. Fantastic. Thank you again so much. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Stick around. There's so much more coming up from the 2026 SHOT Show.